Hello, I'm Professor Matthew Rotella, and in this tutorial I'm going to go over extruding polygon geometry along a NURBS curve, which is useful for all sorts of things. I have this braces set up that I'm going to get to in just a bit, but I just want to go over some of the uses of extruding along a NURBS curve because it is extraordinarily useful. It could be useful for doing simple things like just extruding like a handle type thing, it's smooth, well, or just a handle that is curved out of an object, and just making sure that it maintains a nice shape, or it tends to really shine when you're working with things like wires and things that need to be like coiled, and you want them to maintain like a constant thickness throughout, and you want them to be like easily adaptable. Like extruding along a NURBS curve is like really handy for that. And then it's also handy for things like animal horns, even like if I wanted a goat horn. Now, I obviously don't have a head of a goat here, but just so that you can see what I mean, I set up a very basic the polygon geo with a NURBS curve, just so I could show you how it functions. So let's make our like a goat or ram horn type shape out of this geo. So I have this, and you can see that I have multiple faces selected. So whatever you have selected is what it will extrude along the curve, and it will maintain that shape. So first you just select all of your polygon faces, you hold down the shift key, you also select your NURBS curve, and then you hit extrude, just like you would anything else. Now the first thing it's going to do is it's just going to jump right to the end of your NURBS geometry, or your NURBS curve. So what you need to do is you need to go into your poly extrude and add more divisions. And the more divisions you add, the smoother it will be. And you don't have to stop at 25. You can go as many as you need to have it be smooth. So like here, yeah, like I said, I have my like ram's horn sort of look going on. And you can add a taper and make it get bigger or smaller as it extrudes outwards. And if you want, you can even have it twist going, let me see, push it a little bit. Let's see, that's too much, but then I could add more divisions, and then I can have it twist like crazy. But yeah, and you can have your geometry twist as it goes down the line, and it's just a really good way to get nice, smooth, curved extrusions that are adaptable and can be used for lots of different things. So, to get into making your NURBS curve, and another great use of it, which is when you're working with things that are wiring and weaving in, around, or through other things, especially because you can even like add a lot of points to your NURBS curve, and then you can use like a twist deformer to have it like twist all around. And you can, that way you can have like wires that like wind around other wires, as long as your curve is doing that around itself. And anyway, they're really adaptable. But just to give you another really relatively simple but very useful demonstration of it, I'm going to make, I already have the bottom wire made down here. I'm going to make the top wire on my braces, which I modeled myself using a few different pieces of reference imagery. I think I was mainly using this one for, yeah, the molar, as well as this one, which I used for referencing the wire thickness, which you can see here, as well as the general shape of the braces that I decided to model. Always good to model from reference. Basically, I got the base of the wire, which is just a scaled cube with some beveling, and I did a little bit of work to make sure that I had the the quads running the way I want to. You don't have to be too particular about it. I mean, if you wanted to try a very similar thing, you could just do it with a standard cube. Doesn't really make much difference. Anyway, I'm going to make a duplicate of this just so that I keep my old base wire. And now I'm going to place this into my geometry. And I don't have to have it sticking out the back, but just gotta place it right in the end there. I can butt it up against that, making sure that I stay relatively on point there. And here we go. Let's start making our curve. Alright, let's get my mouth out of the way to help me see a little bit better, and I'll hide my bottom braces as well. So I'm going to need my wire to move within these brackets that I modeled. And I believe I extruded this along a curve also, going around the tooth. But in any case, I'm going to go into curves and surfaces. I'm going to use the EP curve tool, which the way that functions is you just click and you just keep clicking, and it'll sort of make something that is automatically somewhat smoothly curved by default. But if you wanted to have a little bit of control over things, or a little bit more control over things, you could use the Bezier curve tool, which if you just click, you'll get hard edges, but if you click and drag, you'll get bend handles, like the pen tool in Photoshop or Illustrator. And you can go into control vertex mode, and you can move those around to adjust your curves. By default, it'll always move both handles at once, but then if you wanted to move the handles individually, you can always go into curves and then Bezier curves, tangent options, and you can break your anchor tangents, and then once they're broken, you can use that to adjust your handles however you want, to get your curves how you want. And you can reconnect them, keep them even. You can go into curves, you can make sure that anchor, you can use some presets, you can do a corner, or a Bezier corner, what have you, and change various things. Anyway, I'm just going to use the EP curve tool just because it's quicker, and it's easier to edit with EP curves because you don't have the handles to adjust. But use whatever you feel to get the amount of control that you want for whatever project you're working on. I'm going to go into my top orthograph just to make sure I line things up properly. I don't want to place the first one in it, because if you place your original point somewhere within your geometry, then parts of your extrusion will start like turning inside out. So you want to put it like just outside your geo, and then basically I'll just start clicking around and place a curve. And a lot of times what I might like to do is, at the very least, I want to put one on either side of it, but then maybe I'll also do one in the middle and then on the other side of it, just to make sure I get the right amount of control. And part of the reason why this is very useful is since each like piece of the braces is aligned to each individual tooth, and not every tooth is perfectly aligned next to the next one, at least not in a perfect curve. So it's good for this, for getting that sort of irregular curved geo that I want, but still keeping it somewhat smooth. And then here at the end, I might put a few extra points just to make sure that, maybe I'll back it up a little bit, I stay relatively straight as I work my way through. And then the edit points will move these original like purple guys, and then the control vertexes are similar but different at the same time. And alright, and now I got that, and probably you can see a few things that I need to straighten out, but I'll just extrude, because this is the other great thing about doing it this way. So let me see. I'm just gonna use my side orthograph here to make sure I get all the faces I want. I want all of these right here, and then go ahead. And shift select my curve there, and it looks like I have the selection that I want. So go back to poly modeling and extrude, and again the first thing it will do is shoot across to the end, and then as soon as we hit our attributes, start making divisions, it will more and more smoothly curve. And I'll just go ahead and give it, I'll give it a solid 100, just to make sure I get a nice smooth curve. Alright, now part of the great thing about using the curve tool is even after we've made our extrusion and we've worked with our curve, which I could have gone ahead and placed ahead of time, I can edit all of the control vertexes after the fact, and I can make sure that I'm placing them all so I get that perfectly smooth weave through my geo on each individual bracket, which they should be generally placed in X and Z in the positions that I want them, but perhaps not. There we go, that's what I was looking for. Just getting that control vertex there. But perhaps not in Y. But regardless, I can just maneuver things until I don't have any clipping and things look like they're aligned the way I want. And I recommend placing your NURBS curves in some sort of orthograph when you do your original placement. Oh, these I placed a little too close together, which is why I'm getting that like crimping, so to speak. Yeah, and I can basically just work my way all the way around the curve. And now, and you don't need to watch me do the entire curve, because I mean, you can basically see I've already done it here on the bottom set of braces as I go around, and you know, I accommodate for the different tilts and orientations of each tooth, and I have what fits effectively on my mouth. And then I might want to end up putting some extra attention into making sure that this weaves properly, but it looks like I did a pretty good job already just eyeballing it from the top, which is nice. But yeah, that's about it with all that. So you can see that it is an incredibly powerful tool for shaping things and making quick work of modeling something that has to weave and curve and go through various things. The one real downside would be that the two are like linked after the fact, so you'll get some funky stuff if you go to move them both. But the way to overcome that is simple. You gotta just make a duplicate, and your duplicate will no longer be affected by your NURB curve. Or, I'm pretty sure deleting the history works as well. If you go up to Edit, Delete by Type, History. And yes, that appears to function also. So, that about covers it. Extruding along a curve. A very useful tool that should be in any modeler's toolkit. Thanks for watching.